All right, now it's time to talk to the one and only Chad Summers as we are going to break down the big race for Saturday at Gulfstream Park, the World Cup Invitational Stakes, of course, Cyberknife on display. Before we get to that, though, Chad, I do want your opinion on LeCompte last week. We went over that. Your pick was Instant Coffee, and Instant Coffee did not disappoint. So Brad Cox and Luis Saez getting the job done. How impressed were you by Instant Coffee? And is this going to be one of your early top tens once we get into the Kentucky Derby futures?
Yeah, I mean, he's second in points right now with 32 on the road to the Kentucky Derby. He took care of business like he was supposed to do, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes. So exactly what it needed to do, as you said. Before we get into, because again, we're only going to do one race with you today. I did want to quickly ask you. I don't know if you have an opinion on it, but I'll ask you anyway. On the Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf Invitational Stakes, Shantasara is the heavy favorite there, the Chad Brown horse. But I wanted to just ask you because Artie's Princess is a horse that is only run on synthetic tracks mostly, but yet has really good numbers on the sheets. And I know you're not the sheets guy that, say, John Hardoon is, or even myself. But is that something? I mean, you take a look at a horse like that has done really well on a synthetic surface. Do you 20 to 1? Do you just discount that horse, or do you say, yeah, you know what? If he's really good on that track, he's 20 to 1. Then maybe he's an interesting option for this race.
Well, I think you just take everything, at face value, and you have to look at her body of work and her races, and compared to the other ones. So the one thing that she'll be facing on Saturday is a tougher field than she's ever faced, and I'm still a big proponent of no matter how fast you are on the sheets or buyers or whatever. Um, Class is class, and sometimes you got to step up your game to run. So you're getting reward if you want, by getting the longer value of the odds. But you got to think, is she good enough? Is she fast enough, to run against this caliber of field? And there's going to be some scratches in there. I think there's going to be 3 early scratches, but still going to be a really really deep competitive field.
Oh, why will there be scratches?
Just some horses came up with some things.
Okay. And then the other question I wanted to ask you before we move on is the World Cup Turf Invitational Stakes, which is race number 12, just before the race that we're going to talk about, because Ivar is the heavy favorite there at 5 to 2 in the morning line. But Ivar's only won once since late 2020. And I know you always hold that against horses for good reason. I mean, if a horse just doesn't win a lot, especially if he's a heavy favorite, that usually concerns you. Uh, are you concerned with Ivar as the heavy favorite in that race?
I mean, look, I'm a fan of the horse. He hasn't won since 2020, but doesn't run very often. I think he ran 3 times in 2021 and maybe 3 or 4 times in 2022. And he ran well and ran behind, really nice horse in
Yeah.
modern games. The question more so with Ivar is the distance. He's probably at his best going a mile. Going a little bit further, it's not really his optimal distance, even though he is a little bit of a closer. So, look, I saw Paulo Lobo this week here at Gulfstream. He's very bullish on the horse. He thinks the horse will run a big race, but at the end of the day, it is a big ask, and you're going to be odds on. You might want to prefer others.
Okay, let's talk about the big one on Saturday. It's the reason why you are in South Florida at Gulfstream Park. This is it for Cyberknife, right? This is the last race.
This is his last race. He heads to the breeding shed on Sunday morning.
All right, good for him. 5 to 2 morning line shot before we get the Cyberknife, the number 10 horse. Let's start first of all. This is a mile and an eighth race, $3 million purse, 4-year-olds and up. Should go off about 5:40 on Saturday. So Rosario on board of Proxy, and Proxy seems to be racing, looking pretty good coming into this one because the trend line is nice as far as the sheet numbers. 10-9-7 the last 3, coming off a grade 1 win at Churchill. So what about Joel Rosario on board of Proxy at 9 to 2?
Seems to run well fresh. He obviously stepped up. That was a career best race last time out in the Clark, winning the way he did. And the field wasn't the deepest of fields, but it was a talented enough group. Maybe not Group One level, but talented enough. He's not the biggest horse in the world, but Mike Stidham certainly knows how to prepare one for a big race, having won the Dubai World Cup a few years ago with Mystic Guide, which would be the long term plan for this one as well. If you were to run well in the Pegasus, would be to move on to the Dubai World Cup and run over there for their big purse. But look, he's not the biggest of horses, and jockey Joel Rosario and his agent Ron Anderson just seem to be in a little bit of a funk right now off to a very, very slow start of the Gulfstream meet. I think he's 5 for 70 or something like that to start the meet.
All right, number 2, Simplification, a 15-1 long shot coming off a 7 sheet number at Gulfstream Park in that Grade 3 race. I believe we did that race. That was on New Year's Eve day. But anyway, Simplification does seem to perform pretty well at Gulfstream Park, but not so much at this distance. This was a horse that ran in 2 of the 3 Triple Crown races and also won the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream Park.
He's also using this as a prep to go to Dubai. That's the long-term goal. I don't know that he's necessarily 100% cranked up. He certainly wasn't 100% ready last time out. I think maybe a little bit more fit from that race. And while it was a little bit disappointment in that last start, it was good enough to at least move on to this race. The problem with Simplification, other than those couple of races early on in his 3-year-old year, he's kind of been an afterthought of, third, fourth, pickup checks. And look, we talked about it last time he ran. Trainer Antonio Sano did something similar with Gunnevera, who ended up making almost $6 million in his career. So there's nothing wrong with it. But from a handicapping perspective, he's not going to be 20-1, and he's probably going to be up against it to win. Now, can he pick up a piece? Absolutely. But I wouldn't put him as a win candidate.
Yeah, there's other good competitive horses in this race. I'm not sure this is the one to go with Simplification. The 3, I'm not sure why Riding with Biden is even in the race.
Training really well. Training very, very well, very forward. Trainer Butch Reed and his wife Jenny do a wonderful job, and he deserves to be here because he's consistent.
Okay.
He might not be as flashy and have the best numbers as some of the other horses in the race, but he seems to show up every time he runs. I know he blew up a lot of Pick 5 tickets in the mandatory payout at Parks last time when he won, and he's training very, very well. He really seems like he got a hold of this Gulfstream track watching him train earlier this week.
Yeah, so this is a horse that has been at Parks the last 4 races and has been at Gulfstream twice, never in the money right now at 20-1. Let's move on to White Barrio. And White Barrio has seen better days. Florida Derby, of course, was the Holy Ball in the Florida Derby, the back-to-back at Gulfstream. That was the peak for White Barrio. Hasn't had since that Florida Derby win, just one single-digit sheet number. That was at Parks in the Pennsylvania Derby, finishing 5th. That was a race Cyberknife finished 3rd in. But the thing that I notice here more than anything is that the term horse for course, talk about a lot about that on our golf show. Well, this is where it comes from. If there's a horse in this field that really gravitates positively more to Gulfstream Park, it seems to be White Barrio, who not only won those 2 races I mentioned, but ran 8s in those races, which were the best sheet numbers that we've ever seen from White Barrio.
Seems to be more like trainer for course, to be honest with you. I mean, trainer Safi Joseph seems to do well. We might start calling him the Golden State Warriors because he's got a great home record and the road record not good. Look, this is a horse that trains at Gulfstream year-round. He's stabled here. He obviously likes the track, and he's run well here in the past. But an 8's not going to get it done, and he needs to really show improvement from 3 to 4. He's not the biggest horse in the world. Really need to see him kind of just I'm on a wait-and-see approach on White Barrio.
Okay, 5 is Defunded, a 6-1 shot. You get Baffert, you get Rad Ortiz Jr., who, by the way, is on board for the first time. That is a big plus. Coming off back-to-back wins at this distance, one at Del Mar, one at Santa Anita, ran an 8 in the Santa Anita race, ran an 11 in the Del Mar race. Haven't seen him since late November. What about Bob Baffert's Defunded?
Well, this was kind of a back and forth for Bob. I'm not sure that he was really all in committed to running in this race, but it's a $3 million race, and I think you got to give it a try. Horse isn't a great shipper, seems to have made it over here okay in one piece, but it's one of those things where you want to see. He hasn't really faced the caliber of field out there that he has. Now, people are going to say on paper that he might be lone speed, he might be loose on the lead, and I read Paco Ortiz Um, he's won this race before for Bob Baffert, riding Mucho Gusto for the very first time on that day. It's interesting to see. He could have rode a few of the others in this race and elected to ride the funded. But uh, look, he's going to take a lot of money being a Bob Baffert horse. But I'm not sure. His ceiling is as high as some of the others in here.
Okay, 6 is Art Collector. Getting a little old now, and I think we're noticing that not only on his age, but overall his sheet numbers have really started to cavitate this year. One single digit, that was an 8, Saratoga. Other than that, we've had a 17 and a 15. The 15 was the last time out at Churchill. So it's just a horse that was very impressive over his career. 50% wins, 7 of 9 wins at this distance. But this is just a different age for our collector, no pun intended.
Well, 2 of those wins were around 3 turns at Charlestown. But I think the thing is with this horse, and look, he was a cool horse. Tom Jury did a fantastic job with this horse when he had him. He's not another one that's not the biggest made horse in the world. And my problem with this horse is, look, they were pointing him for a few different races. The Cigar Mile, they were pointing for the Harlan's Holiday. He wasn't able to make both races, having different physical issues and setbacks. And when you're running in a race like this, which is a $3 million race, that's being, people are pointing to and things of that nature. You want everything to go right. You don't want to have, I missed this day or missed this week or didn't have this breeze. And for that reason, along with several others, I'm just against him in this spot. I think this might be his last career start.
7, Skippy Longstocking came through for me big time the last time we saw this horse in that grade 3 race at Gulfstream. Ended up running a 6 in that race. So really, if you take a look, it had that one bad race at Parks, and if you draw a line through that, the last 4 races, 10, 9, 7, 6. So the question is, will the horse bounce? I'm not so sure that's the case. But the odds obviously are a little bit lower than maybe you'd want in a race of top competition, 5-1. Still, the horse seems to be peaking.
Well, the answer is yes, he's going to bounce. The second reason he has no chance is somehow he won for you last time, which I have no idea how that happened. Savvy Joseph had no confidence at all in him in that race. You had a lot more confidence than the trainer. He won. The track was able to carry him. Some of the other horses in that race didn't seem to show up, including Sappy's other horse, O'Connor, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I think he bounces to the moon. You see, Irad quickly jumps off him, even after the victory. So he doesn't have a lot of confidence. So maybe you need to ride him along with rooting for him and everything else. I don't know where that last race, kind of came from. He showed unusual speed. He won't be in front in this race. And I just don't think, I think he's a complete non-factor. I would completely toss him, to be honest with you. Despite his sheet line, despite his last race, I'm not a believer.
Okay. The 8 is a 15-1 shot. Getter number. Now, this may be an interesting long shot. But you take a look at it, the sheet lines have actually been pretty good this year on dirt, with the exception of one race. That was the race at Del Mar in August. Other than that, we've got 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got some nice single digits. The 8 was last time out at Aqueduct, finishing second in the Cigar Mile handicap.
Look, he's a live long shot at 15-1. Peter Miller seems to ship in and run well. Doesn't always win these big races, but they always seem to show up and hit the board, especially when he wears his lucky hat. And I just think that the horse is in good form. So, Louis Saez elected to ride him over Art Collector, who he has a long career with. He's run a lot of races for Bruce Lunsford and Bill Mott. And the team chose gutter number, so I'm going to go with them.
Okay, now it's on to Last Samurai, a 20-1 long shot. This is a D-Way Lucas horse. The sheets are actually in the Last Samurai's favor, 15, 12, 10, 8. So heading in the right direction. The 8 was, I think, an all-time best. That was the last race in December, mid-December. But this is definitely a long shot.
Yes. Next.
All right, Cyberknife is next. The 10 horse, what do you think about the post position?
I'm okay with it. Look, I don't think there's a ton of early speed in here. I think he's tactical enough to get over and get himself in a good position. And Florentro obviously knows him very, very well. This is the longest break he's ever had in his career. I think he's going to be fresh coming into it. And I think he'll pop out of there good and go from there. So, look, it's you never want to be, drawn towards the outside or drawn towards the inside, but it's horse racing. It's where they finish, not where they start, as Brad Cox likes to say.
Yeah, and the sheets alone, just there's no other horse in this field that really has that sort of consistency since June of numbers like 4, 5, and 6 and 7. I mean, it's just been fantastic, and hopefully Cyberknife ends his career and this season on a great note, which we
Well, and the
expect.
one good thing is, since the Eclipse Award voters like to have horses who are lightly raced and didn't make many starts in America, we're hoping if he just runs the one, maybe he can be an Eclipse Award finalist next year.
Yeah, right. 7 of 8 in the money over the last 8, I should say 7, and that's pretty impressive. The only race not in the money in the last 8 was the Kentucky Derby, and that happens. Okay. By the way, the 5-2. That's a good number, right? I mean, if we can get 5-2, we'd be happy.
Sure,
Yeah. Do
absolutely.
you think we'll get 5-2?
No.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm hoping at least even. All right. Stiletto Boy is too slow. Correct.
Well, look, he ran well here last year. Jose Ortiz, as part of the Ortiz and Ortiz law firm, was determined to try and take out Nick's Go at the start and showed a lot of early speed. Mike Smith rides. Obviously, Big Money Mike is no stranger to big races. He's kind of the interesting horse in the race of will he show speed or not show speed, and if he jumps out of the gate with intent, does that kind of affect or impact Cyberknife a little bit and the strategy that he'll incorporate, or does he just kind of run his normal running style? Because he's not really that fast. I don't know, where that early speed comes from. So that's to me the interesting thing in the race. He's a trier. He's a cool horse, really good looking horse. He'll make somebody a very, very pretty show horse at one point when he's retired. But look, he's made $1 million since these connections bought him 2 Julys ago for brothers Steve and Ed Moger. They do a great job. They're having a good time out here, and certainly rooting for them as well.
Yeah, the interesting thing, as you mentioned, I mean, the last time that this horse went for the lead early was the last time the horse won a race. That was at this distance at Santa Anita, and the horse ran a 7, which is the
Yeah.
best we've seen from Stiletto Boy. So, if he gets off to a good start, then maybe you'll be able to cash in an exacta or a trifecta if you're lucky. All right, wrap it up with O'Connor. A horse that we've only seen twice in the state. Started off with that win at Gulfstream and then ran a 5. But that was a mystery, and we talked about the mystery in the last race. That was that race that we just talked about with Skippy Longstocking, but then bounced to an 8. So, do we still not know enough about this horse, or are now that we're getting 10-1, is this a little bit more of an interesting play?
I think. Look, if you wanted to go back to the well one more time, I couldn't fault you. However, you have to take into consideration the fact that the horse did not run on Lasix last time and ran on Lasix in his first start. He's not going to have Lasix on Saturday. You like to see that the connections want to move forward, but this is a different race. This isn't the Pegasus of 5-6 years ago where you had to pay $1 million for your spot. In this case, it's an invitational and it doesn't cost you anything, and you're running for a $3 million purse. So of course you want to be invited and you want to go to the be asked to the prom. I'm gonna fade this horse. I'm very disappointed in that last race. Really didn't seem to have any excuse. Safi says he wants to go longer. He didn't act like he was gaining any ground in that last race, so I'm not really sure what I'm missing. But if he beats me, he beats me. It's just as much as I loved him last time, as much as I don't like him this time.
All right, so if we're trying to make some money on exotics, Cyberknife and
All in the daily double.
all in the so you've got is that actually from race 13?
I don't know. Look, I think that
I mean 12?
the thing is, obviously, Cyberknife's not going to be a very big price, but if they give you 5-2, I think that's more than
That's a
fair
bargain.
odds. Even though the media didn't find him capable of being an Eclipse Award finalist, at the end of the day, I do think he was among the best of his generation, of his crop. And look, that's what this race was created for. This race was created to send these horses off to stud as champions, and it worked with horses like Gunrunner, his father, who won from Post 10, Arrogate, City of Light. Even Nick's Go was valiant running second last year. It was a chance to see one more start before they kind of get into the sunset and enjoy their second careers. But I think he's the class of the race. and hopefully, at the end of the race, he's in a class by himself.
Yeah, I mean, you could even tell after he won the Haskell, it just didn't seem like the analysts just gave him too much credit, or like they weren't really. It was more of, oh, Taiba didn't win or Jack Christopher didn't win, as opposed to, wow, look at Cyberknife, it's impressive horse, and it's just so like you said, he just hasn't had the credit that this horse has deserved. And again, I don't know why. Maybe you do. So. Uh, how about I'll tell you what. Before I let you go, how about get her number at 15-1 at the 8 horse, and maybe even proxy if we can get 5-1 the 1 horse. We'll throw those into the mix to finish behind Cyberknife.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, Chad, appreciate it. Next week, I'm not sure what we're on board for, but I know since you're away from you back home next week.
Maybe.
Okay, because you're heading out to overseas potentially, right? Sometime soon?
Yeah. Saudi Arabia in a few weeks.
All right, we'll keep in touch, and hopefully we'll be able to do a live show again sometime soon. I appreciate your time as always, Chad.
You got it. Have it going great.
Take care. So always a great job by Chad. Can't wait to talk more horse racing with him again as usual in the coming weeks. Hopefully the schedule won't kill us. If it does, maybe we'll I know I've got a really good pinch hitter available, Mark Lawrence. We haven't talked to Mark in a while from playbooksports.com. So I know that Mark would love to come on the show whenever Chad can't make it. So we'll do that definitely, and I'll tell you what, if when we do get to that point, we'll do a live show. It's a little bit more difficult doing the live shows with Chad because of his schedule. It's the guy's training horses every day, so it's not easy for us to schedule the live shows with Chad. But we're going to try to do our best, and not sure if we'll be able to accomplish that next week or not, but hopefully we will. All right, so now let's get back to the rest of our show, as we either are going to be wrapping up or we're going to be taking a look at the other races on our card today from Gulfstream Park. All right, so I decided that what we're going to do is we are going to continue on with races 11 and 12 from Gulfstream Park. Of course, it's without Chad, as you know by now. So I decided to kick off the show with Chad. That makes sense. Didn't need to figure on that too long. But we do have a couple more races that I want to be able to give you. Call these bonus races because, again, I am not the top handicapper here by a long shot. But as usual, can't do this without looking at the sheets. So I purchased the sheets as well as you should. Make sure to do that. The sheets are available over at where else but thesheets.com. Check it out. I believe it's a 3-race minimum. So that would be $15 minimum. And the full card is $40, I believe. And this Gulfstream Park card, this is the type of race day that is worth the whole $40. So I would do that if I was you. And especially if you're down in South Florida and you're going to head to Gulfstream Park for the day, no better day. I mean, there's no college football, there's no NFL, college basketball hasn't really peaked yet. There's some other things going on, like the final round out west, if you're a big PGA Tour fan. But other than that, it's a great day, Saturday, to head on down to Gulfstream Park if you're in the South Florida market. Maybe that's what Mark Lawrence will do. And I know Mark Lawrence and I, of course, will talk later on when we preview Sunday's action in the NFL on another show. But now let's continue with our horse racing coverage. And how about race 11? Because I did ask Chad, as you heard, I asked him for just some quick points on some of the things that I was looking at for both of these races. Now, race 11 is a 1.1 race on turf. That is the Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf Invitational Stakes. This one should go off a few minutes after 4 Eastern on Saturday. It's a $500,000 purse for Filly and Mare's 4-year-olds, and the 1 horse is the horse that I asked Chad's advice on because of the fact that when I was looking at the sheets for the 1, and I compared those sheet numbers to the rest of the field, with the exception of, who was it, the favorite, Shanastara, I was like, well, wait a second here. They're good. They're either on par or better, actually. Matter of fact, if you look at it, Shanastera has had 2 races in single digit sheets because this horse also ran outside the country, and we don't have sheet numbers on that. But Artie's Princess has 4 races in single digits. And again, though, we have a little bit more action on them. But that was on synthetic. That was at a track. That is like the little leagues of thoroughbred racing, or at least that's what I have been taught. So those are look, and that's why you're getting 20 to 1 on Artie's Princess. So I get all that, but I did want to ask Chad's opinion on it, because when you have a horse and you're looking at the sheets and the numbers are all saying that they're just as good, if not better, than any other horse in this field, and I'm getting 20 to 1. Well, and by the way, you're being trained by Saffie Joseph, and you have Jose Ortiz on board. Because let's just look at it this way. If like every horse, or most every horse, had that kind of resume on a synthetic track and then decided to head on over, not that this horse hasn't run on a turf race, because this is a turf race, because this horse has 1 turf race, and that was at Saratoga, and that was in July of 2020. Finished 4th, but the horse ran an 11. Okay, so I have an 11 on a 20 to 1 shot on turf, and then I've got better numbers or equal on synthetic for most of this horse's career. So I'm like, okay, well, why not? Anyway, pretty much as Chad said, though, I mean, it is what it is. But we are getting 20 to 1, and I'm going to play Artie's Princess. I have no idea if Artie's Princess is going to work out for me, but at 20 to 1, I do think it's worth it. And the main reason, after all of that, has to do with the combination of I'm still getting Saffie Joseph and Jose Ortiz. Okay, Dalica is the co-favorite with Shanastara, and I didn't really mention Dalica as a co-favorite because I don't think that Dalica should be based on the sheet numbers. Dalica has, from what I have here, we've got single digits in 2021 of 998. Okay, but in 2022, last year, 1 single digit race. That was a 9. That was in August. That was in a grade 1 race at Churchill in which the horse won. Very good. You won the race, Churchill. It was grade 1. Excellent. Awesome. Okay, terrific. But again, you're only talking about a 9, and since then, 11, 13, 11. And the 2 11s were wins. So we've got 9 and 2 11s with wins for Dalica. Also, the horse is 7 years old. So now we're getting into another year. All right. I just think those are some warning signs for me when it comes to looking for the decision of who you would go with, either the 2 or the 9, if you were taking the favorites in the race, and you had to decide on one of the 2. The 3 is Wakanika. Now, Rosario is on board, and Rosario was on board actually the last 2 times, ran second in a grade 1 race at Belmont, and is coming off a win at Keeneland. Now, that race was early in November, ran a 13, not all that great. Had 2 9s in the middle of last year, so that was okay. But since then, 11 and 13, not exactly going in the right direction. But the horse has 1 8 out of 15, so you have to consider that. Only 1 out of 2 on turf. Not on turf at this distance. And again, 1 mile and a 16th. But 5 to 1, yeah, you can consider definitely this horse anytime you got Rosario at 5 to 1, especially when the sheet numbers aren't that all bad. Matter of fact, if you look at the difference between Wakanaka and Dalica, you've got 11, 13, 11, 9, 13, 14. Well, all right. Well, Wakanaka has 13, 11, 9, 9, 13, 12, 14. That sounds very similar to me. Matter of fact, I've got 2 9s on Wakanaka compared to 1 for Dalica, and I'm getting double the odds. So I would go with 3, definitely, before I would take 2 based on the odds. The 4 is a long shot. I see no reason to believe in this horse. The good news is the horse is coming off a 12, which is as good as this horse can do, at Gulfstream at this distance. So, and you're talking about a 20-1 shot. The horse has only ran once at Gulfstream and has come away with a win. Of course, this horse was out of the country not too long ago. So in the States, you got a 20 and a 12 on turf. Big difference, though, 20-12. So that's a big jump in an improved number. So, look, at 20-1, not going to try to convince you not to go with Sweet Enough. But you can see why Sweet Enough has the odds that it does. Queen Goddess is a 9-2 shot. This is the 6 horse. Saez on board, so that's a good deal. 2 wins in the last 3, 3 wins in the last 5. But we don't have any single-digit sheet lines from Queen Goddess at 9-2. The best we have is an 11 at Santa Anita in March. Since then, 15 and 14. So, again, why would I take Queen Goddess at 9-2 when I can take Wakanaka at 5-1 based on the sheet? Lady Rockstar. Now, Lady Rockstar is a horse that I'm going to play as well. You got Brendan Walsh. You got Gaffleone. This horse, over the last 3 races, 11, 9, and 10. So now, again, we're getting those numbers that are very similar to what we saw with Dalica and Wakanaka. And I'm getting 6-1, and I've got a premier trainer, rider. So I'm feeling pretty good about the possibilities here. First time at Gulfstream was last time out. So Lady Rockstar gets familiar with the surface, runs in 11, comes in second in a grade 3 race. So I'm feeling pretty good about taking Lady Rockstar in this race, along with Artie's Princess and Wakanaka. The 8 is Justify My Love, a 30-1 shot, ran a 10 at Kentucky Downs in September of last year. Since then, a 16 and a 15. And then finally, we have Shanastara, as we mentioned, and this should be the favorite of the race. This is the Chad Brown, Rad Ortiz horse, and I believe the horse will go off as the favorite. 5 wins out of 11. 5 wins out of 11, so you like that. Last year, after coming into the States from France, 16, 13, 12, and then 5. Had the 5 at Keeneland in a grade 1 race. And that was an easy win in that one. And then you expected the next time out you get a little bit of a bounce. But the fact is, you did get the bounce, but you had a little bit of a delay. Since the October race. It was about, 6 months? But still pretty impressive. Didn't race for 6 months. Not sure, of course, what happened there. Still ran an 8. Finished second in a grade 1 race at Keeneland. Okay, came back and again needed some time off. Not sure exactly what happened there. Had to wait till November. Ran a 12. Not so good. Run 5th. Not so good. So there are some warning signs for Shanastara, which is why I'm going to go with 1, 3, 7. That's going to be my, I'm going to do that as an exacta. And actually, I'm going to look at, if I had to probably take who I would look at for a win bet, I might actually go with Lady Rockstar, but I don't have like a specific horse in this field that I'm, one or the other. But it's Wakanaka and Lady Rockstar. Those are the 2 kind of co-favorites for me in the race, or the 2 my 2 top ones. Okay, so that's race 11, and now we're going to wrap up with race number 12. And this is a 1.125 on turf, the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational Stakes. This is a purse of $1 million for 4-year-olds and up. This should go off about 440 on Saturday. And we'll start with the 1 Wit. And you got Pletcher and Jose Ortiz. And of course, always as I do this, you have to take a look at who the favorite is, because so this you can identify whether the sheet numbers are actually, how do they compare? All right, so looks like the 5-2 shot, of course, is Ivar, who we talked about with Chad a little bit earlier, as you know. And what we're dealing with Ivar are 3 straight 6s coming into this race. So you do have to keep that in mind. So let's take a look then at the second choice in the race, so we can possibly be a little bit more realistic as far as who might be another top contender. And that would be City Man, a 4-1 shot, who is coming off a 6. But before that, really, and had 2 6s actually last year. And it was sandwiched. One to start the year, one to end the year, but also had 3 9s kind of in the middle there. So you pretty much, that's what we got to work with. So going back to Wit, we have an 11, 10, and 2 11s. Those are the 4 races on turf for Wit. And that, compared to the horses we just talked about, just doesn't sound good enough or look good enough. The only good thing, 4-year-old. So that's pretty nice. When you're talking about, Ivar being a 7-year-old and City Man being a 6-year-old. So at least we've got a 4-year-old being trained by Todd Pletcher and being ridden by Jose Ortiz at 8-1. I don't want that number dropping from 8-1 though. If Pletcher's going to get money at the gate, then I guess they can take it. But if we can get anywhere close to 8-1, Wit is not a bad idea. Good governance. Now this could be an interesting long shot at 15-1, because how about this? When was the last time you saw a horse get off of Chad Brown, move on to another trainer that was not as equal, and actually run the race of his life or her life? And that's what Good Governance did. But that wasn't the result. The horse only finished 4th at Gulfstream at 1 1/8 at this distance. So that's good, because the horse only ran once at Gulfstream, and that was it. So you're at least getting the horse in this race off of Gulfstream at this distance, and ran a 6 in that race. All right. So, but you're going to look at a bounce candidate here for sure, especially with the trainer change. Second time, can't be as lucky, I guess you would think. But look, you are getting 15-1. So you do have to keep that in mind. Atone is the 3-shot, and that's with our Red Ortiz Jr. and Michael Maker. So you got a really good combo there. We do have a 6, but that was way back in December of 21. Last year, we had a 7 in January, and then we did have a 9. That was in October. Besides that, we have a lot of 10s, and 11, and 12. So what the horse has an advantage, though, over, say, Wit, is that Wit hasn't yet put those single digits together. At least Atone has that. But again, Atone's 2 years older, so he's had the time to put those together. So you got to look at it both ways. Still, Atone is 12-1, Wit's 8-1. We got a Red Ortiz Jr. on board of Atone. And even though it's not Pletcher, it is Michael Maker. So I would even think the 3 would not be a bad idea at those odds. Next up, Hurricane Dream. At 15-1 shot, Graham Motion trained horse. We haven't seen this horse in the state so far. I don't see any sheets, so this is just a complete guess. The 5 is One More Bid, a 20-1 shot. You got Mike Smith on board. Coming off a 9, that's the best we've seen out of One More Bid. And that would probably mean that we're going to get a bounce deal here, because this horse broke his maiden back in November at Del Mar. Ran a 13. And that was pretty much as good as it got for One More Bid. Came right back in a grade 2 race at Santa Anita and ran a 9. So got even better, and also won that race. Won both races very close down the stretch. So you are talking about a horse that is coming up back-to-back wins, and you're getting 20-1. And Mike Smith's on board. Not sure Mike Smith is the way Mike Smith used to be, but he is still Mike Smith. So look, another long shot to consider. The 6 is Lady Spitespear. And Lady Spitespear's got 7 wins out of 13. And you're taking a look at Saez on board, so that's always nice. Saez actually jumped on board last time out, ran 3rd. Also was on board in May and April races. But the one last time out was the best so far. That was a Breeders' Cup race. Came in 3rd in that race, ran a 7. So that was really nice. Before that, on synthetic, junior leagues track, ran a 5, but still 5 is a 5. We've also seen another 7, same thing, same track. Ran a 9 at Keeneland in April. So overall, and this is a horse that's been in some big races, and again, almost 50% win. This is a really nice one because we're getting 6-1. And again, we're getting a really nice rider on board as well. So Lady Spite Spear. If I'm looking for, so far out of all the horses that we've gone over, I think Lady Spite Spear is at the top of the list. Speaking Scout is an 8-1 shot. Graham Motion. Training. We already mentioned Graham Motion, didn't we? I think we just did. Yep, Hurricane Dream. So this is another Graham Motion trained horse. Speaking Scout, an 8-1 shot. No single digits. Matter of fact, we don't have a 10 and we don't have an 11. So at 8-1, I'm not sure what we're doing there, except for the fact that the horse is coming off a grade 1 win. And that's going to get everybody interested and thinking, whoa. But ran a 13 in that race. And it was on the West Coast. And we've talked enough about how the West Coast horses have been lately. So I don't see any reason to take Speaking Scout myself. With no sheet numbers, better than 12. Who's the Star is a 20-1 shot, coming off 3 straight wins and 5 wins in the last 6. But, and this might be pretty similar to what I was talking about in the last race with Artie's Princess being on, was it the same track? Yes, it was the same track. Another synthetic surface for Who's the Star. This horse ran even faster. This ran 5, 5, and 5. So we have 3 straight 5s coming in. But again, on synthetic, all those were wins. You can't knock the horse for winning races and running 5s. But look, you're getting 20-1. So just like I say with Artie's Princess, you have to at least take notice. But let's also talk about a few other things, because Artie's Princess, remember I said, ran a turf race, ran an 11. Okay, we've got something that at least says comes off of that synthetic surface, not only experience on turf, but a decent number. Who's the Star ran 3 times on turf, won twice. Did run a 9. The other 2 races were 14 and 16. So we have 1 out of 3 with good number on turf. Again, no, we're talking about, again, Little League. Little League as far as racetracks. Artie's Princess ran that turf race, did it at Saratoga. Not the Little Leagues. So, yeah, I'm not going to jump on Who's the Star, but you have the information to go on with what you will. Decorated Invader is next at 15-1. And this horse is actually an interesting 15-1 shot. 2 for 2 at Gulfstream with a win. You got Clement training the horse, Alvarado. So you got some solid combos there. But what I also like is the fact that this year you have 11-9, 12-7. Now you can look at it and say, yeah, but when the horse went to 9, bounced to a 12. So is that what we're going to get with the 7? Because the 7's two better than the 9. So we're going to bounce again here. Yes, that's entirely possible. But the fact is at least, if you look at it, the horse ran a 9 in October of 2020 and only bounced to a 10. And we're at the point now where he is coming off the best race of his career. So even if the numbers go back a little bit, I'm not so sure that won't be good enough, to maybe even get you in for a trifecta. Chances are you're probably going to have to run, maybe a 7 or an 8, though, to accomplish that. So there's a little bit of difficulty there. But look, 6 out of 16 wins. And even though, again, we're expecting a bounce, I still think that at 15-1, it's not the worst idea in the world to try to make some money, especially if you're going to go with one of the favorites, of course. And Ivar's next. So again, you got the 3 6s coming into this race for Ivar. This horse, from his way, if you're just looking at the form, the racing form, no sheet numbers outside of single digits. Everything's in single digits. Matter of fact, this horse ran a 6 in May of 21 and ran a 6 in October of 2020. Never raced at Gulfstream, so you got to question that. And again, you've got the information to go on from my questions with Chad. The horse has only won once since late 2020. It's going to be the favorite of the race, you would believe. The horse is 7 years old now, so take that into consideration. So there are a lot of signs of, on one hand, the sheets are saying, oh, this horse is completely going to dominate the field. No horse compares to this one as far as the sheet career of Ivar. But on the other hand, there's a lot of different warning signs that are making you question whether or not you want to take a favorite such as Ivar in this one. But I can't see not taking Ivar. Especially because the other horses that are in contention, I think you're going to get good numbers on. Masterpiece is next at 10-1. Another Safi Joseph horse, Gaffley owned combo there. First time for Safi Joseph. Okay, so Chad Brown previously trained the horse. McCarthy was next. If you take a look at the sheets, ran a 7 in July, an 8 in September, and a 12 in November. These are all bad signs because the horse is now turning 7. So that's just not good. So we can see why the horse is 10-1. Look, there are some good sheet numbers in there compared to the other horses in this field, but I like some other horses. All right, and 12 is City Man. This is the last horse in the field that is also going to be one of the top contenders, as we mentioned, at 4-1. You got Rosario, you got Clement training this horse, so Clement's got another one. And the reason I like City Man is because the last 5 races, 3 9s, 11 and a 6. Remember, I mentioned before the last year started with a 6, ended with a 6. Now, here's the problem. The horse ran a 6 in April. Then very next race, which was a month later, ran an 18. That was the worst. And matter of fact, it took a third race to get back into single digits after the 6. So we do have to deal with that. And it's not like this horse has had a couple of months off. We've got pretty much the same amount of time off. Matter of fact, might even be less than that race where it went from a 6 to an 18. So, and we're talking about a horse that's now got the position at 12. And Ivar's 10 too, so keep that in mind. So, look, I think, the sheets are telling you, the lines are saying, yes, City Man, very good, comparable to Ivar in many ways, especially got a couple of 6s, but there are some warning signs that you just have to consider, especially anytime that you're considering a low number like City Man. So, if I was going to wager on this race, which you know I will, I am going to go with Lady Spitespear, the 6 horse. Matter of fact, I think that might be the top play. And some of the other horses that I'm going to be looking at in order to... Oh, you know what's interesting? I was just looking at it. Good Governance ran in the same race as City Man. They're both coming in, running that race at the end of December. The Fort Lauderdale, the Grade 2. City Man won the race, ran a 6. Good Governance finished 4th and ran a 6. So both horses are coming into this one off a 6. Now, at least City Man's got the 6 to go back to, even though it wasn't very good what happened to him after that. So there you go. I mean, and the major difference is Good Governance is getting 15-1, and City Man is on the outside at 4-1. So... yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if I would take Good Governance and try to make some money off of them in an exacta, but if I'm looking at some potential exactas to go with the main horse I mentioned, Lady Spitespear, I'm thinking maybe Decorated Invader. That may not be a bad idea at 15-1. Again, because at least there's a lot of consistency over the last 3 years between 7 and 12. Matter of fact, if you think about it, Decorated Invader, just on the form, Decorated Invader, since July of 2020, has had sheet numbers between 7 and 12. We've got a lot of 10s, 11s, 9s, so that's very consistent. You like the consistent horses. You like the combo trainer rider. And I'm getting 15-1 coming off the horse's best race of his career, which happened to be at this track at this distance. Unfortunately, he's a little outside the 9 position, but we're trying to make some money here. So yeah, I would, if I'm looking to decide on which favorite I would go with, Ivar or City Man. I don't know. I might go. I mean, it's tough. I'd probably take Ivar, but I can see both reasons. I'm not gonna. You guys probably even know more than I do which way to go on that one. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and round up my exacta with. I'm gonna take the 9 Decorated Invader, and if I'm gonna try to make some more money, my last pick is going to be. Should I go with Good Governance? Expect it to bounce definitely. Yeah, probably not. You know what? I don't even know if I have a third one right now, right off the bat. Probably just going to look for the odds, see what happens. But there's a lot of different horses to decide on. But I'll take 6-9. 6-9 would be my play, and then I'll decide what to do with some of the other horses because it's possible that one of those top contenders might end up being a better value because you have actually just 2 of them in there, the 2 favorites, and they're both on the outside, Ivar and City Man. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up. Again, got to apologize for me being the only one here for the most part, but great to have Chad. I know how busy he is being away from his home base, so it was awesome to have him on. That's why I wanted to slip that in and get the big one out of the way. And my job here, whenever I have to do this solo, is just to get you as much of the information as I can on the sheets. And again, you got to purchase them yourself for the whole day. Again, I believe it's $40. Go to thesheets.com, check it out. And this is as good as a card, good as a day as any to put in a few extra bucks and just go for the whole day. So check that out. Coming up next week, right at the top of my head, I have no idea, so I'm going to take a look. Look, as I mentioned, with Chad's schedule, don't know yet exactly where he's going to be, but if something happens, which is going to happen because he's going to go away here quite soon, and when he does, whether or not we get the opportunity to have him on or not, as I said, we will have a pinch hitter waiting in the wings in Mark Lawrence. So at least I'll have somebody else here giving another opinion on what they think about the upcoming race that we might talk about. So next week, there are 2 races at Aqueduct, including the Grade 3 Withers. So that's a good one. We also have more Gulfstream Park racing. So we might just go right back to Gulfstream Park. Matter of fact, there are 5 Grade 3 stakes races, including the Holy Bull at Gulfstream. So we have the Withers and we have the Holy Bull next week. And then at Santa Anita, we've got a Grade 2 and 3 Grade 3s, including the Grade 2 Santa Monica Stakes. So there you go. So we've got a lot to choose from next week between Santa Anita, Aqueduct, and Gulfstream Park. So we'll be here. We'll always be here if I can help it for as long as we can. And of course, always, we appreciate any of the donations. Hit the thanks icon. It should be pretty simple from there on out. Just follow the instructions. They can range from, what is it, $2-3, I think, up to $50. So, and hopefully if you make some money, then you can share the wealth, because it's not only going into my pockets. And by the way, when it does go into my pockets, as I've said before, I don't take it and run off to, pick up a 900 number and start making some calls or, head on out with a limo. But the reason that it's important is because I put it right back into this channel. This channel is everything. As far as all of my time, energy, you name it, it's all about the channel. So at least that that's exactly where it's going. And it's either going to go there or It's going to go to the Permanent Disabled Jockeys Fund and the Old Friends for Retired Horses. So, what I've said before is that when, because when Chad gets his cut, 50% of that goes to the Permanent Disabled Jockeys Fund and Old Friends for Retired Horses. So at least you'll know how that all works. And look, the more money that comes in, the more we'll be able to not only donate there, but also, as I've said before, what I'd like to do at some point, maybe even put not maybe like a neat little project together where we can have some goals to attain by a month before the Belmont Stakes, maybe even before the Triple Crown. And that is to try to see if we can raise enough money where I can take a trip, go to Belmont, go to Chad's stomping grounds, take my video camera, which by the way I don't even have yet, but I'm saving for that. So again, you want to know where all the money, not of course just this specific show, but where the money's going, from my sponsors, from my clients, and from you guys. It's going into things like this. So one of the things is I'm saving up for a nice video camera, and I would definitely feel that by then I'd be able to take my new video camera, head up to Belmont Park, and spend good 48 hours with Chad, enjoying life, behind the scenes. And I can't wait to do that and put all that stuff together. So we'll talk more about that as we get closer, because we haven't even done Triple Crown rankings yet. So we have a long way to go as far as that's concerned. But anyway, just want to remind everybody about that. Subscribe. That's always important. You got to subscribe. And if you like what you see, please hit the like button as well. That's also very important. And please share it. Share the video. Send it out to your friends anywhere on social media. All that stuff, including your comments, very important here on our channel. So thanks if you are still watching. I know that there's probably a limited amount of you guys that are still tuning in, but thanks for watching. And check out some of the other shows we have on the channel that are handicapping centric, including, as I mentioned, Mark Lawrence is going to be with me. We're recording this on Friday afternoon. He's going to be with me on Friday afternoon to preview the NFL championship games on Sunday. So we're going to do all that, and you can check that out. And then off to 2 more weeks, Super Bowl, and then that's it. No more football for this year. We turn around into college basketball, though, right away. Once we get into February, all the way through to the all the way through to the Final Four, it's all basketball with me and Mark Lawrence. Anytime Mark comes on, we're going to talk college hoops. And we just started our PGA Tour show. So we've got the golf show in full swing. And we're going to be covering 3 motorsport series this year, not just NASCAR, but we're going to cover F1 and the IndyCar series. So that's even more handicapping events to check out here on our channel, and I hope you'll do that. So for Chad Summers, I'm Greg DePalma. We'll see you next time.